When I was 8, my father carried me on his shoulders so I could see over the tops of people's heads from the sidewalk right across the upper balcony of one of Cubao's upscale department stores where they always held a Christmas show. The 8-story building faced the widest street in the retail district, and on any day of the week between the first day of December and Three Kings Day, that street filled up from sidewalk to sidewalk well before 7 p.m. when they started the cycle of shows that happened every hour until midnight, 45 minutes each with a 15-minute break in between. It was a different show every year with a different theme, each more outlandish than the previous one. We never missed a season until we stopped going. I just can't tell you the exact year when we came for the very last time, but it was probably when I just had grown big enough and my father's bony, narrow shoulders couldn't bear my weight anymore. I heard the music first, generic American Christmas music blasting from giant stacks of black speakers on both ends of the balcony. A canvas of painted scenery unfurled itself from the top, revealing a blue sky speckled with summer clouds and a horizon that seemed to cast out a green grid of rice fields. From behind the speakers, on either side of the stage, entered a range of mountains cut out from plywood boards and painted a calmer and more distant green to give the background some depth. A yellow spotlight from across the building came on and threw a perfectly round yellow sun on the upper right corner of the sky. And then came a row of thatched houses, all identically shaped and in the same dull shade of brown, taking their designated place in the foreground against the mountain range to be bookended by prop coconut trees, heavy with fake fruit and what seemed to be real coconut leaves. The music was not in sync with the action. The volume was simply raised and lowered to match it. My father was not happy about it, but we cheered anyway when they turned up the Carol of the Bells, just as fiesta garlands in multicolored triangles shot out from both sides, pulled on invisible cables strung across the top. A row of mannequins entered, covered in what was meant to look like rural clothing, straw hats, solid-colored shirts and blouses, earth-colored pants. They were the farmers and the villagers, their mechanisms all linked to the same motor, raising and lowering their permanently bent arms in unison. A tall bamboo pole pulled up and held steady by wires swung up from the floor. At the top was a canvas sack, colored the same dirt brown as the villagers' houses, made to look like it was filled to bursting with oddly shaped things. Out of the left came an articulated painted mannequin, dressed like the rest of them but twice as large, its oversized head, black cap of hair, and its youthful rosy cheeks, suggesting that it was a little boy. He took the center stage and waved to the audience, revealing multiple joints in his arms. He was the star of the show. The boy slowly turned on his axis to face the bamboo pole behind him. He raised his arms, his stiff hands grasping the air on both sides of the pole, and began to inch upward as his limbs mimicked the act of climbing, jerking his arms up and down in a way that made a handful of men in the audience titter. But the music quickly rose to take over, and the crowd alternately cheered and grasped as the boy spurted up and slipped down the pole to claim the prize and disappear into the upper darkness. The mountain slid away and a series of panels lined with a neat row of rounded windows entered, followed with a swift row of seats facing right, filled with mannequin passengers. Now the length of the balcony was an airplane aisle. The boy appeared again, dressed this time in a dark suit with golden buttons and golden stripes on his shoulders. He glided across the stage straight to the cockpit. He lifted his wooden arms to take the controls. The fuselage of passengers, now waving in a single concerted motion, tilted upward as the sky crept downward and the music soared. The floodlight suddenly went out and the crowd gasped. For those of us who had seen it more than once, we gasped in pleasure. For those who were seeing it for the first time, pinpoints of projected lights, stars, suddenly blanketed the entire department store facade. The balcony slowly gathered light, revealing that it was now a gently curved gray horizon of sand. Above the stage appeared a silver rocket, shaped like a giant cartoon bomb. Its boosters glowing with yellow light to cushion its descent. "The moon," someone shouted. A hatch, marked by the department store logo, opened with an amplified hiss of pressurized air. The boy jumped out, his body now clad in a silver spacesuit and his head in a plastic bubble. He floated down in partial gravity, his gentle landing on the sand timed with a puff of air from the stage floor that blew up a cloud of dust. He raised his arm, waving to the crowd or proclaiming victory, and turned again on his axis slowly. When he faced the crowd again, he was holding the Philippine flag on a pole, planting it on the balcony stage. This prompted the only music cue, the department store's trademark song that they always played when the store opened and closed each day, but rendered this time in a Christmassy way with bells and horns. A few moments of applause quickly drifted into silence as the crowd changed. I remained on my father's shoulders a little longer, staring at the darkened balcony. I thought I could hear the faint sound of props and equipment as they reset the backstage for the next run. "Did a Filipino really land on the moon?" I asked my father. "Yes," he said. My father never told me otherwise. Why should he? We were very much a part of what they called the global village. TV commercials for Philippine Airlines like to say we were Asia's first airline. We had just hosted the Thrilla in Manila, and we had won Miss Universe a couple of times. Over the next several years, Hollywood directors came to Manila to shoot movies. My father would let us listen to a recording of Francis Ford Coppola's daughter, Sophia, singing our national anthem. From memory, celebrities like George Hamilton and Gina Lollobrigida came to attend film festivals and parties. We hosted the Southeast Asian Games, and each one of those triumphant occasions was broadcast live via Intelsat 5, a satellite. It was broadly publicized that had been invented by a Filipino. Thank you.